Good morning, councillors, staff and viewers. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land with which we are gathered here today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, traditions, culture and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people across this great nation. I extend my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. I acknowledge their history of wisdom, resilience and survival and respectfully thank them for their contribution to the life of this city and region. So welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of 6th of December 2023. I declare this meeting open at 10 a.m. I would like to advise meeting attendees that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. Can the gallery please be upstanding if you're able to join me for a moment of contemplation. As this year draws to a close, I find myself taking a moment to look at the year that has been, the year ahead and simply just to reflect in the moment. Once again this year, Council has continued to achieve great outcomes that will leave a lasting impact on the community despite the challenges that have come our way. At the start of the year, we celebrated the major milestone when we became just the second Council in Queensland to be certified carbon neutral. Creating a greener city for the future generations has been a priority of mine and for a very long time. Council delivered another $1 billion budget this year, all the while navigating some of the most challenging cost of living pressures we've seen in a long time. This year, our advocacy efforts in preventing the Inland Rail's double-stacked carriages from entering our city and securing the Logan Central Indoor Sports Centre have also been lasting legacies for Logan. This is a venue that will be a true legacy from Brisbane 2032. A multi-purpose venue like this in the city delivers essential infrastructure that our growing city needs and deserves. This kind of catalytic infrastructure unlocks development, provides long-term jobs, spurs further investment in the city and will help to build a stronger local economy. The venue will be used by future generations of sports-devoted Logan families long after the closing date of 2032. The achievements of the past year are testament to the power of teamwork and a shared vision for an even better Logan. The collective efforts of our council has transformed challenges into opportunities and paved the way for a brighter future for the City of Logan. Thank you. Okay, we have no leave of absence to record. We're all here, which is great. We'll go straight into condolences. I now refer to condolences. Do any councillors have condolences to raise? And I'll start at Councillor Bradley, Councillor Lane, Councillor Russell, Councillor Kransky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I'd ask that you please send condolences to the Van Dyke family on the very sad passing of the patriarch, Willem. Willem passed away on Friday the 1st of December at 6 a.m. Willem Sr. Was originally born in the Netherlands in 1930 and during World War II he was placed in a German concentration camp. He was only 10 years old at the time and he remained in that concentration camp for 5 years until he was liberated by the US Army. The Van Dyke family immigrated to Australia in 1973 and they settled in what was the former Albert Shire. Willem lived the remainder of his life in the Logan area with his beloved wife. He was very proud of his involvement in the Beenleigh Respite Centre and Palm Lakes Bowls Club. Willem passed away at the age of 93, which is of course a very good innings, and he passed away in the Logan Hospital following a major heart attack. He was a beloved member of his family and he leaves behind his son, Willem Jr., and daughters Yolanda and Sylvia and their beautiful families. He'll be sadly missed by his family, his friends and the community.
Councillor Hall, Councillor Raven, Councillor Hall, Councillor No. Okay, no worries, thank you. I'll now open the floor for congratulations. We don't have any council congratulations, they've run out of awards. Do any councillors...
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry? Oh, yep. Sorry, we'll have to have a minute silence for those people that have passed. Sorry about that, I got a bit ahead of myself. Okay, we'll go straight into congratulations. Councillor Bradley, Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. As we speak, a number of schools in my area are having their final days of graduation and awards ceremonies, and I want to wish Harrisfield State School, Kingston State School, Woodridge State School, Woodridge North State School, because they all combine on the exact same time and the exact same hour to have their graduation ceremonies, the very best. The schools are amazing. They support people, they support their kids, and they really go the extra mile to ensure that every child gets a good education. The second congratulations, Mr. Mayor, is to the roads team and the advocacy team. Last week we received notice that Division 2 was successful under the local communities and infrastructure program for Beanley Road at Underwood. So the residents of Underwood are actually going to see Beanley Road go to 4 lanes both directions, which is something I know one of the previous councillors looked at, but you know, we've actually managed to deliver it in this term, and I'm absolutely stoked. So Director, please say thank you to your team and the Director in charge of advocacy. We really appreciate it. It's something that we couldn't have done under local infrastructure money, but we're actually getting it done for the community. So thanks very much and congratulations to you.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Russell, Councillor Clancy, Councillor Hall. Yep, up you get.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pass congratulations to Principal Curran of Eden's Landing State School. He has completed his term at Eden's Landing and has now decided that he's going to move back to a bit closer to his family, and will be starting at another school as a high school principal. He's done a lot in his period as principal to shift the image of Eden's Landing State School. Before he came along, it was almost free dress at the school, and he ensured that the policy was changed that all students had to wear uniforms, and the students have become very well behaved. He'll be very much missed by the community and very much missed by all the students that he's taught. But I'd like to pass congratulations to him throughout his period of teaching as the principal at Eden's Landing State School. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on Sunday, I was fortunate to attend the Forestdale Neighbourhood Watchers Christmas in the Park event. And as everyone knows, Sunday was a rather hot day. It was 35 degrees, I think, out there at the time, which was quite uncomfortable. Oh, sorry, my phone just locked. Okay. This is an annual event, and once again was a great day out for all who attended. The extremely hot weather did not keep the crowds away, and there were cool drinks on hand to keep everyone hydrated. The children had an opportunity to have their photo taken with Santa, and there was face painting and rides to keep them entertained. There was a variety of stalls selling everything from pot plants to Christmas decorations. The event was opened by the Honourable Leanne Enoch MP, State Member for Algester, and I was pleased to be able to officially open the upgraded playground, so stage 1 of the park upgrade, and I was ably assisted by Councillor Raven. Mr. Mayor, I ask that you pass on congratulations to Mrs. Lynn Whittingham and her fabulous team for yet another awesome event in Forestdale. Thank you.
That will be done. Councillor Hiremeier, Councillor Bannon, Councillor Stemp, Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to pass my congratulations on to the graduating students. I haven't been able to attend all of the graduating ceremonies that they're having. Greenbank State School's on this morning. They were a bit, oh, you're not attending. And I said, no, that's because I actually wagged council last year to attend purely because my daughter was graduating. So best of luck to Greenbank State School, Flagstone State School and Everleigh State School students who are all about to graduate grade 6 and move on to high school. I know it's a daunting prospect for a lot of them, but I'm sure they will do just fine. And a huge congratulations as well. I attended 2 Christmas events on Saturday. It was stinking hot, as we all know, but it was super wet on the grass. But they went ahead with these events, and they were attended by, I'd have to say, a couple of thousand at each event. I had one at Everleigh, one at Flagstone. They were both fantastic events. So congratulations to Enriching Communities and the Flagstone PNC, because they were both fantastic events. I loved attending them, and I've got more, as we all do, this Christmas season. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Today, I'd like congratulations passed on to Beenleigh Rum Distillery. Mr Mayor, I'm pleased to announce that the Beenleigh Ardens Distillers is the oldest rum distillery in Australia and has taken home several gongs at the recent Australia International Rum Awards. We should have been there, shouldn't we? So their awards included Double Cask scoring 94 points and won the trophy for the best port and column still rum and double gold. Beenleigh DTD's rum cola 8% and 4.5% won double gold and gold respectively, and the Beenleigh XO rare rum won gold. These awards are competitions focused solely on rum and cane spirits from around the world, and it is incredible to see a local Logan business recognised on a global stage once again. So congratulations to Beenleigh Rum Distillery.
So where did that other place come?
Sorry?
Bundaberg. I don't know where. I've never been.
Oh, no,
there.
never heard of it. Beenleigh
no,
Rum's
okay.
the best.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's all good. Okay, I now refer to the minutes of the previous Ordinary Council meeting. I move that minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on the 15th of November 2023 be confirmed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall is seconding the motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I now open the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion's been carried. I now refer to declarations of conflicts of interest. Do any councillors wish to declare any new conflicts of interest against any items on today's agenda, including any conflicts which have subsequently arisen from matters discussed at the committee? None being so, I note that Councillor Murphy and Councillor Wilcox have declarable conflicts of interest that were raised in the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the Wednesday the 29th of November 2023. I will now ask Councillor Murphy to speak to her declarable conflicts of interest. Councillor Murphy, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I raised a declarable conflict of interest during last week's Lifestyle Committee meeting and voluntarily left the meeting while the item 5.4 was on the agenda to discuss. I note that the recommendations of that committee are to be adopted today, and my intention is to leave the meeting while my fellow councillors vote on the adoption of that meeting minutes for the City Lifestyle Committee as related in 5.4. But for transparency, Mr Mayor, I note also that I raised a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item 5.1 of the City Lifestyle on that Committee. On the 8th of November, my fellow councillors decided that I may participate in that decision despite my declared conflict of interest. I know that recommendation of that committee are to be adopted today. I am able to vote on the adoption of the minutes even when I have a declarable conflict of interest. On that basis, unless there is any discussion today in respect of 5.1 of the City Lifestyle agenda, I do not pose to take any further action. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Now I'll ask Councillor Wilcox to speak to her declarable conflict of interest.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Wilcox.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I raised a declarable conflict of interest during last week's City Lifestyle Committee and voluntarily left that meeting while item 6.1 on the agenda was discussed. I note that the recommendations of that committee are to be adopted today, and it is my intention to leave today's meeting today while my fellow councillors vote on the adoption of the minutes from City Lifestyle Committee as they relate to item 6.1. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. We'll get straight into it. Business arising from minutes. We have no business arising from minutes to consider. We'll go straight into planning. So I now refer to City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee held on the 28th of November 2023. Councillor Raven, Chairperson of City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only 3 more meetings to have to read out that very long title before the end of term. Mr. Mayor, with your indulgence, I'd like to take this opportunity to give some thank yous to the staff and the portfolio and the director, as the committee ran so smoothly. We're in and out in 35 minutes. It was great. So to start off, I would like to thank my deputy chairs, Councillor Russell and Councillor Stemp, for the fantastic support you've given me in my capacity this year. It's been a huge year in the planning, economic development and environment portfolio, with obviously the planning scheme, the materials recovery facility, service level reviews, and of course everything else that we do on a day-to-day. So thank you for all of your hard work. I know I am difficult to put up with because I try to do way too much and I couldn't do it without your help. So thank you to both of you for all the support you've given me. To Dave Hansen, the Director of Growth Economy and Sustainability, great work, mate. I'm pretty sure that all councillors share my view when they say that you do an excellent job and you lead your team very well, and that empowers them to do amazing work on behalf of our residents. There is the word strategy used to be in your title. I think we need to bring it back because that's what I think of when I think of Dave. To your managers, to Dave Bradich, to Michael Asnikar, to Stephen Ball, and brand new Brett Espenson, thank you very much, gentlemen, for all of your hard work. There has been so much done in this portfolio, and the Mayor specifically wanted the Logan plan to be delivered and into draft by this year. We have hit that deadline, and it wasn't through any accident. It was through well-planned, scheduled board meetings and making sure that we engage with councillors regularly and often. And finally, I would like to thank councillors for how well you work with these staff. I often get feedback about how constructive, respectful and helpful you are in dealing with the staff in these branches, especially in DA, where I know there's often conflict between what the law says and what the community expects. You do an amazing job of supporting that team and really using them to the best of their ability so you can empower them to deliver what they need to for the city. So thank you so much to everybody in this room and everybody who's not in this room for all the work that you've put in for this portfolio this year. Mr. Mayor, I will now yield the floor to my colleagues to see if they want to say anything.
No, I never thought you'd get around to it. Councillors, do anyone wish to speak to either committee reports? None being so, I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I now like to move that 1, the minutes of the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting held on the 28th of November 2023 be confirmed, and that 2, the recommendations of the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting held on the 28th of November 2023 be adopted.
Councillor Raven has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Stamp has seconded the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. We'll put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Is there any councillors wish to record their name against any particular item in that report? Councillor Bradley.
Mr. Mayor, can I have my name recorded as abstain from 5.3? Thank you.
Okay. Any other councillors? No. Councillor Raven has set a precedent of thanking his staff, and that in the report I'll allow all other chairs to do the same thing if they wish. I now refer to the City Infrastructure Committee held on the 28th of November 2023. Councillor Lane, Chairperson of the City Infrastructure Committee, you may proceed.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I talk the people up in the roads and the water crew every single meeting. I don't need to do it once a year. I just thought that I would like to speak about the recommendations of the report, the Capital Roadworks and Drainage Program. Sorry, Councillor Raven, I just couldn't resist. was sitting there waiting for me to take the opportunity, and God love it, I did. A quick meeting is always a good meeting, Mr. Mayor. The reality is the roads and water crew are flogging themselves to actually deliver for the city. Everyone's getting water to their house, the sewage is getting taken away, the roads are getting fixed, but there is a pothole on Railway Parade. I'd just like to lodge that while we're on the screen. Our roads are actually really good. Yes, they falter sometimes, yes, they crack, and yes, people say, oh, it's a terrible bumpy road. But the reality is it could be much worse. We've got dedicated people in this directorate and they're doing a hell of a good job. Am I allowed to say hell? I just did again. Okay, sorry about that. So, Mr Mayor, I have nothing else to report on. I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, hand over. Do any other councillors wish to speak on any of those council reports? No? No, hand it back to you, Councillor
Thanks,
Lane.
Mr Mayor. I now move that the minutes of the City Infrastructure Committee meeting held on 28 November 2023 be confirmed and that the recommendations of the City Infrastructure Committee meeting held on 28 November 2023 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Lane has moved the report. I have a seconder. Councillor Fraser, a seconder of the report. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No? I'll now put it to the vote to count. Put your hands up, please. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. Anyone wish to record their name against any of the items? None being so, we'll keep moving. Thank you. Okay, I now refer to the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 29th of November 2023. Councillor Hall, Chairperson of City Lifestyle Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to echo Councillor Raven's sentiment and also thank the City Lifestyle portfolio and my chairs as well. I especially like to thank Brad, who's pretty much, we're like Batman and Robin. We're up there running the chair, but I can never get him into a pair of tights, even if I wanted to. That being said, they do a really good job of making us look good and making the city an amazing place, and they're the real heroes when it comes to that. I would now like to refer to the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 29th of November 2023. Sorry, I'm reading your part, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note that Councillor Murphy declared a conflict of interest in respect to item 5.4 of the City Lifestyle Committee meeting, where she was unable to participate in the decision and therefore left the meeting whilst the item was discussed and voted on. I also note that Councillor Wilcox declared a conflict of interest in respect to item 6.1 of the City Lifestyle Committee meeting, where she voluntarily left the meeting, including while the matter was discussed and voted on. Therefore, items 5.4 and 6.1 will be separated from the bulk of the discussion today. Accordingly, I now ask Councillor Murphy and Councillor Wilcox to please leave the meeting until the matter has been voted on.
Okay, we'll just wait. Councillor Hall, you may proceed.
I will now speak to the recommendations for item 5.4 and 6.1. At the last City Lifestyle Committee for 2023, councillors considered a range of reports reflecting projects, initiatives and services throughout the City of Logan. Councillors received a report that sought approval for funding to be made available to construct a demountable female change room facility at Clubland Lee using combination of funding including local infrastructure program and reserves. The demountable building will provide 2 change room facilities for female AFL participants while remaining practical in terms of future relocations if required.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Do any other councillors wish to speak on those 2 items? No, I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that the recommendations for item 5.4 and 6.1 of the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 29th of December 2023 be adopted.
Councillor Hall has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder to the motion? We need a seconder. Councillor Raven has seconded the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion has been carried. Now, does anyone wish to record their name against any of those items? Councillor Kerensky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could I have my name recorded against 6.1, please?
That would be done. Councillor Raven.
Abstain 6.1.
That would be recorded. Okay. Okay, Councillor Hall, I'll hand it back to you. So we might ask the other councillors to come back into the room first, though. Here they come. Councillor Hall, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll now speak to the remainder of the recommendations. Keeping score at Logan Metro Sports Park is about to get a lot easier with the provision of an electronic scoreboard. Queensland Rugby League have big plans for Logan Metro Sports Park, providing opportunities for players, officials, coaches and spectators to experience rugby league at all levels and continue to grow in the sport in Logan. Councillors considered a report regarding proposed amendments to Local Law 9.2, which relates to election signs. Logan City Council regulates the display of election signage to uphold the safety, amenity, environment of the city. Following the finalisation of community engagement on the proposed changes, the report sought to finalise the amendments to the local law. Councillors also considered 2 reports relating to community benefit funding for organisations in the city, as well as confidential reports relating to Queen's Roads Depot redevelopment project. For the final council meeting of 2023, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my fellow councillors, colleagues, the executive leadership team, council officers and the wider organisation for your support, hard work and dedication to making Logan City a great place to live, work and play. Sounds like a Mars bar commercial, actually.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Do any other councillors wish to discuss any of those items? Okay, I'll have Councillor Bradley first and then Councillor Heremont.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Back in 2020, I raised the election sign issue and requested that be reviewed. I will be voting against that today, and when I vote against, I can't provide a reason, hence why I'm standing up. I do not believe we've gone far enough with election signs, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Councillor Heremont.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise today to speak on a point of discussion regarding the proposed local law changes that we're voting on. So what's the proposed local law change? Section 3 of the proposed local law sets out that the objective is for public safety and amenity. The proposal is to introduce a 60-day rule that applies to all private property in the city, and this rule would prohibit the exhibition of an election sign outside of a 60-day window preceding an election without a government-approved licence. Now, Section 4 of that proposed local law states that the exhibition is greater than the mere display of an election sign. In fact, that section defines the exhibition of an election sign as including the painting, writing, drawing and transport of that election sign. So we've heard from Councillor Hall today state that council regulates the display of an election sign. In addition, this proposed local law would also regulate the painting, writing, drawing and transport of that election sign under the proposed reform. Now, outside of that 60-day window, residents can still apply for a licence. Page 35 of Logan City Council's Register of Fees sets out that a temporary signage licence has a fee of $349. And conditions of that licence include that council can go and inspect private property, photograph private property where that sign will be displayed, or written or drawn. So who does the law apply to? Section 20 of Local Law 9 puts an onus on all owners and occupiers of private property in our city to ensure compliance with the new proposed local law. The report doesn't include any plan or funding for an education campaign to inform the stakeholders that they have this new responsibility to ensure compliance with the 60-day rule. So if compliance isn't achieved on private property, what is the penalties for a breach? Now, the new local law grants council the remit to issue fines of up to 50 penalty units for breaches as set out in Section 5 of Local Law 9. Now, that translates into a fine of $7,440. That is the maximum, but this local law grants council the remit to issue a fine of that amount. Now, if a party does not pay that penalty, council can seek the recovery of that debt. Council has a practice of referring unpaid penalties to SPUR, a state government agency. Once it's referred to SPUR, council loses operational power over how that debt is recovered. SPUR can seek that the debt is recovered by deducting the amount from people's income, and SPUR can even seek an arrest warrant be issued for the recovery of that debt. So how did this law come about? The report states that Logan City Council officers, and I quote, "Officers consider that there are no human rights implications relevant to Council's decision in this matter. Council commissioned an independent human rights expert to author an assessment on the human rights implications. And page 2 of that human rights assessment states that, and I quote, "The amendments therefore limit, in a minor way, freedom of expression by limiting the period in which an election sign can be displayed without a licence." And section 21 of the Human Rights Act states that freedom of expression is a human right. So there appears to be a contradiction between the independent human rights assessment and what council officers have stated in the report. Now, that potential discrepancy can make council subject to legal concerns regarding the process that created this local law. It's clear that this proposed local law overreaches council remit. It's legally dubious, and I urge my colleagues not to support item 5.5. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Heremiah. You brought some good points to the floor. There was a couple of questions you raised, one in regarding whether or not there'll be an education program, and I would push this to our officer, if we could, to ask the question whether or not there is an education program. I'll ask Emily to come up, and there is another question there in regarding human rights, whether or not we have complied with the human rights component. I might ask our legal officer that question. So, Emily, the question was raised in that regarding whether or not that an education program will be provided as part of this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, Mayor and councillors. Councillors previously considered options to implement an education campaign and to strengthen enforcement. Councillors at a previous City Lifestyle meeting, I believe in 2022, voted not to make any changes to that.
Okay, and can we ask our legal officer to answer the question in regards to human rights, whether a council has addressed that component while drafting this local law up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is the case that human rights was considered in preparing this amendment to the local law, and that's reflected in the council report, so it does outline that human rights were considered. However, I acknowledge that Councillor Heremiah raises a good point that the wording of that component of the report would suggest that there was no limitation on human rights at all. But I understand that Councillor Heremiah has seen the assessment that was undertaken, which does identify that in two regards there was a minor limitation on human rights. The conclusion of that assessment, though, is that despite the fact that there was a limitation, that limitation was justifiable and appropriate in the circumstances. What might be appropriate, given that discrepancy between the report and the assessment, so I understand that the officers have brought along copies of the human rights assessment, so we could table that assessment to ensure that it's part of the report and accurately reflects the conclusion that was reached.
Satisfy your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The human rights assessment, even if it's tabled, that doesn't amend the statement on the council report that, quote, council officers consider there are no human rights implications relevant to council's decision in this matter, as that statement appears to contradict with the human rights assessment, even if it's tabled as an attachment to this report. Thank you.
Do you want to make further comment on that, Sheree?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, Councillor Heremiah raises a good point. I'd suggest that a way to address that would be to include a resolution in the matter that says that it notes that the assessment was tabled and also was taken into consideration by council.
Okay, hang on a sec, I just want to see something. Thank you. Okay, so there has been a handout distributed regarding the Human Rights Act. Does anyone wish to... Before I do that, I'll keep the discussion going and then I'll move this to be tabled. So, Councillor Raven, did you want to raise a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Not a question, just a statement. I'll be voting against the report today, but for reasons that sit squarely between Councillor Bradley's comment that we didn't go far enough and between Councillor Heremiah's comment and Councillor Hall's comment that it impinges our democracy. When we went through a very lengthy process of doing workshops and briefings and multiple votes in council, a lot of the questions that Councillor Heremiah raised were addressed. One of the key ones was that council wasn't comfortable introducing regulation that couldn't be enforced, and we weren't willing to put significant resources into providing additional staff so it could be enforced. We're still in that place right now. So as of Friday, when this comes into effect, if it's voted for, if someone starts putting signs out, there are no new staff to go and do enforcement on this. That means Emily's team, who are already very busy at dealing with amenity issues in the city, will be stretched even thinner. And the expectation from the community will be that because we have introduced a new law, that we have adequate resources to enforce it. And we just don't, because none of this gives them extra staff. All this does is add an extra restriction on when a sign can be put out, which I don't disagree. Like, the restriction isn't an unreasonable impingement on human rights. But without the extra resources to enforce it, we're creating laws that we can't enforce. And when the community sees that, they turn around and say, well, why did you bring this in if you had no intention of introducing the resources required to enforce it? Which means we'd need to do it through a budget process.
I understand what you're saying, Councillor Raven. We are in discussion. We're not in debate. There's been no other motion suggested here. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion in the committee, and to address that, suggestions are that the fines are very heavy hitting, and I'd imagine that a sign out there would stand out very quickly and would be addressed by officers. I don't imagine that anyone would be silly enough to put a plethora of signs out there while you've got such heavy fines in place. But we're not in debate, we're just in discussion. I'll continue and allow discussion to continue. I'll allow you to continue.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That brings me to my question, which is for the City Solicitor. So, hypothetically, if a candidate went and put signs out tomorrow that were unauthorised, which isn't legal for the candidate to do, but ECQ don't have the power to enforce either, who would be held responsible for and potentially fined for that up to $7,000 fine if it was put on, say, my fence and I didn't realise it because I was away? Who gets fined in that situation? Is the property owner because it's on their fence, or is it the undisclosed candidate who doesn't have an authorisation on their sign?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the officers would certainly be looking to identify who the person was who placed the sign on the property, but certainly would approach probably the owner in the first instance to ask if they're aware who put the sign on the property and ask them to remove it. It certainly wouldn't be the intention to issue a fine to a property owner in the first instance.
That's good, because you could have a situation where you have an unauthorised third party that's putting up signs without permission of the candidate or the owner. Neither one realises, and then all of a sudden we're trying to issue fines to both parties, and neither of them signed on for that. So and the time that it takes to investigate and write to the owner and provide it would probably put us into the 60-day time period anyway. And this is the challenge with why I don't support the changes without adequate resources to support enforcement.
Okay, Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I opposed this in committee, and I did it for a number of reasons. Number one, I don't believe you shut the gate after you get elected. You get elected on a specific set of laws, and all of a sudden you want to limit the number of days that someone can put a sign out. I think the community really does regulate how they feel about community signs, about election signs, and they vote on that basis. So if someone goes to put their sign out on the 1st of January, pretty sure the community's going to say, come on, don't be a clown, don't do that. And they probably won't vote for that person. I don't know that we actually need to regulate and have punitive measures like we do. The second reason is I upset a couple of people out there in the community sometimes, and I lost over 100 signs last election. So if someone wanted to be vindictive and put my sign up, I could end up with a $7,000 fine. I'm not okay with that. Not at all. I'm not okay with someone else playing sneaky tricks and doing that as well. I think when it comes to signage in our community, We've got a lot more to address, including the real estate signs that are oversized and absolutely in your face, where houses sell in 2 hours but the signs stay there for 2 months. I mean, we've got bigger things to address than election signage. It's part of our democratic process, and that's the reason why I voted against it. So for the city solicitor, if, let's say, one of my signs ended up somewhere inappropriate before the time limit, I would be fined and I would have no recourse because it's my sign and it's displayed publicly. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, at the moment it's not unlawful. You don't need a licence to place an election sign so long as it complies with the exception criteria. So what this is doing is changing the position slightly to create a period of time within which you don't need a licence.
So let's say on January 1st my sign appears on a roundabout, let's say on the corner of Lingrove and Barden Road, and I didn't put it up there. I'm held responsible?
Through you, Mr Mayor, as always, these situations get difficult when you start to throw in particular circumstances. In that instance, the sign would be on a piece of public property. It would be removed because it's likely to be a safety risk by council officers, so it's a different situation.
Thank you, that doesn't change my vote.
Okay, councillors, what I'm going to do, I'll have the last say on this, because regardless of what is being discussed, we regulate signs every election. Hang on a sec, Councillor Hall. We regulate signs. People could put illegal signs out, they could put larger signs than required. There's always a need for a local government to regulate election signs because, unfortunately, people take advantage of the Act, and in many cases a lot of signs are removed illegally and placed in wrong places. These things happen every election, okay? But I think when you look at it, signs and how to vote cards are overrated. We had a mayoral candidate, a lady candidate who ran in the mayoralty, did no election signs, did no handout how to vote cards, and still managed to come third with thousands of votes. So my vote didn't change from before COVID to after COVID, where there was no one handing out any how to vote cards or anyone out there with signs in the street. So it's overrated, but I understand the passion here, and what I'll be doing is I'll be handing it back to the chair, but when we get to when we pass the vote, I'll be recording how many people vote against it, and if there's been a change, then we'll come back and revisit the recommendation, but only if there's been a change of vote, okay? Because there's been no alternative vote recommendation put up. We're only in discussion. So before I hand it back to anyone, does anyone wish to make any last comments? Yep.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We're voting on the whole committee, so we'd have to separate this, to vote on this separately. So if it goes to Councillor Horn, we vote on passing the minutes to the committee.
What I'll be doing is, at the end, I'll be asking to record your name against any items in this report.
Yeah.
And if there's more councillors recording their name, then and it signifies that there's been a change of vote, I will go back to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Wilcox.
I just wanted to add, we're all elected.
Sorry?
We're in elected positions.
Yeah, no.
We've been elected to make decisions, and we always make decisions that change things, no matter what. I voted in favour of this. We have to start somewhere. It's not about shutting the gate. It's making things more appropriate. It's only giving it a time frame, and I'm okay with that. I have geographically the largest division to get around by this much. The largest division to get around, check on my signs, make sure they haven't been moved, and all the rest of it. And I'm okay with that. I would love the fact that we put in, to have 50 signs, but we didn't go there. It's a start, and I think we could go more. I'm voting in favour of it. I'm not changing my vote, but I just wanted to say we're elected members. We're elected to make decisions.
Okay. Before we go back to the chair, there've been no further speakers. There was a document.
Mr Mayor, your microphone's off. Mr Mayor, microphone's off.
doesn't flick on sometimes. There being no further speakers, there was a document presented, therefore we are required to table at this meeting. As the motion is a procedural motion, I will move the motion. I now open the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. I'll hand it back to the Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't get my chance to speak. So I'm going to speak now, forever hold my peace, and this will probably be the last chance I do get to speak on this. I would like it understood that I understand that the officers that were given this task did the best that they could and worked really hard to put something together that fitted towards what we, as a cohort, asked them to do. We did ask them to review this. So this isn't anything on council officers. We, as a cohort, asked the council officers to put this forward. I will be abstaining from this vote, okay? And the reasons for me are probably less eloquent than what Councillor Jeremiah will put together. For me, it's more towards about what we represent as democratically elected leaders. The reason that I'm abstaining is I believe that it is undemocratic for elected members to change the election process of which they themselves were elected by. I believe that every candidate should be given the same or equal opportunity to be elected as the people that they are running against, and should have the same opportunity given to those sitting members who are now in government. Democracy is hard-earned, but easily lost. It is the most fragile of all forms of government, but it is still the best. We, as elected members, must do everything that we possibly can to keep and preserve and hold it safe, even at the risk of our own roles as elected members. I just like to let that sink in. I do not believe it is democratically right.
Is it not on?
Change the democratic process.
Your microphone's not on.
Why would you abstain again when you vote no? It's so strong against it. Makes no sense.
Sorry, do I need to say that again? Was my mic off?
No, it's weird.
Oh, wow.
I think I should, because was that recorded?
Yeah, we heard it. I believe so.
Okay, you finished, Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I abstain because I do not believe that it is right for democratically elected people to change the democratic process of which they were elected by, and to change the opportunities of other people who may be running against them.
Okay.
I'm abstaining from it because I do not
Well, you
believe
haven't
we should be in the
abstained yet
decision
because
process.
you haven't voted.
Either yes or no.
Okay. Councillor Hall, you're going to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that the minutes of the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 29th of December 2023 be confirmed, and that the recommendations of the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 29th of December 2023, with the exception of items 5.4 and 6.1, be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Do I have a second to the motion? Councillor Hall has moved the motion. Councillor Wilcox has seconded the motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. You remember you're voting for all those reports, not that one. Okay, that has been carried unanimously. Now I'll record your vote against any particular item. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am recording my name against 5.5, which I did in committee as well.
Councillor Lane.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to record mine against 5.5.
Thank you. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Against 5.5.
Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Against 5.5.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am abstaining from item 5.5. My reason for abstaining is I do not believe that democratically elected members should be changing the democratic process in terms of which they are elected. And my reason for abstaining is I should not have a say yes or no either way.
Councillor Hirameyer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Against item 5.5.
Okay. Any other? Yes, Councillor Wilcox.
Just a question. Councillor Raven has changed his vote from abstain to against. Does that matter?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Councillor Raven has changed from abstain to against in this. Does that matter?
You can too, Councillor Wilcox.
So there's no other recorded against that item. The vote will remain as it is. Thank you. Okay, let's keep moving. I now refer to the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 29th of November 2023. Councillor Murphy, Chairperson of the City Governance Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We're wrapping up the end of the committees today, and I'd like to speak to the recommendations. The last meeting of the year was a long 4+ hours with 10 reports presented, and some of the key highlights are included. The committee considered its first budget amendment, resulting in a reserve operating surplus of $2.5 million. Council remains committed to meeting our ratepayers' needs while adhering to a budget's constraints. We also had a lengthy report on the digital transformation business case, aimed at delivering a better digital services and a greater benefit to our staff, which will give the quality of service to our community. This is a 4-year program, which is all about setting up council for what lies in the future. We also had our first of the service reviews. Thank you to Stephen Bell, who I don't think is in the room today. Although this was a confidential report with the information, it will shape the 2024-25 budget considerations. The officers involved dedicated 3,000 hours for this review, so a thank you to the team and your dedication for that, and to Stephen as well. And lastly, I'd like to wish and express my gratitude to the corporate service team who make us do well in this room, for your support and guidance along the way in 2023. I'd also like to express my gratitude to Robert, Anita, Cherie and the officers for all your dedication and the outcomes of Logan City. To Tim Fraser, who has supported me in this chair this year, thank you also for your services and assistance throughout the year. Mr Mayor, I hand it back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Do any other councillors wish to speak on any of those items? No? I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to now move that 1, the minutes of the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 29th of November be confirmed, and number 2, that the recommendations of the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 29th of November 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy has moved the motion. Do I have a second of the motion? Councillor Fraser has seconded the motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I'll now put the matter to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. Do any councillors wish to record their name against any particular items in that report? Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 5.2 against and 5.10 abstain. Thank you.
Okay, they're recorded. And Councillor Kerensky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 5.8 against and 5.10 abstain.
Thank you. And Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was against 5.8.
Okay. Okay, thank you, councillors. We've now finished the reports. We've got a late report. We have one late report to consider. I now refer to item 12.1, confidential report, Riverine Discovery Centre. Before we proceed, do any councillors have a conflict of interest to declare? None being so, I note that this is confidential report is a proposed resolution to move this matter into a closed session as displayed on the screen. Do any councillors wish to move into a closed session for this item? None being so, so we won't be going into closed session. I don't believe I need to ask the officers to talk on this. So can you have the new resolution up on the screen? Okay. I will move the motion up on the screen. Do I have a seconder to that motion, or do people want to read that? Should have been distributed that prior. Councillor Raven's got a question? No. So I've moved it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Raven has seconded the motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I'll put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion has been carried. Okay. Okay. Do we go straight to petitions? Do any councillors have any petitions? None being so. Consideration of notified motions. We have no notified motions to consider. We'll go into general business. We'll be starting at Councillor 6. Councillor Hall, do you have any GB?
Only one, Mr Mayor. You may notice that myself and some of the other councillors are wearing Christmas ties, wearing Christmas themes. Everyone was given a tie, including yourself and Councillor Jeremiah. These ties are actually, except for the ladies, you could wear them as headscarves if you really wanted to. I'm not sure if you're allowed to wear them as ties during the uniform protocol, but I might be wrong. It's very strict uniform protocol. What I'd like to say is my mother found these ties at the Browns Plains Tipped, and it was an awesome score for her. She got them at a really good price, and she's been waiting since January to to put them to use. So I'd like to thank all the councillors for wearing their ties. There is one other thing that I'd like to bring up, and that is for residents to slow down during Christmas, and just be aware that if you're drinking, I've brought this up in the past. My brother passed away back, and he leaves behind him 3 surviving daughters, 2 of which were in the car with him at the time of the accident. And from what I know of the accident, it could have been avoided if he just decided not to drive. So if in doubt, power out, catch a lift with someone else, or just stay where you are. Don't risk it. It's not worth the risk. I'd also like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. All I'd like to do is just to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. And I'd like to thank all the council officers for all their hard work that they've done this year, and for supporting us and for giving us wonderful advice. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Jeremiah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise today to say a special thank you to Sandra from Claremont Resort. Sandra is a leader in the community, and she recently helped host the Claremont Resort Christmas Craft Day. There were dozens of vendors, live music, and hundreds of people to come to Park Ridge, enjoy the day, and really highlight our community spirit. There's been a lot of changes around Park Ridge, especially Claremont Resort. The property next door may have had its trees cut down and houses built in its place, but the community spirit is still there, and that's something that Sandra is keeping alive. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jeremiah. Councillor Bannon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just want to shout out to the CEO, the managers, program leaders and everyone else. In my first term at council, I deliberately made a decision, not that I got voted anyway, to not be a chair, not be a deputy mayor, any of that, because I wanted to have that relationship with staff. Owning my own business and still owning my own business, I understand the importance to have that trust with staff, the respect with staff, which I hope I've got. I think if you don't have that and build that relationship with staff, you're always going to struggle as a councillor. So I just want to thank everyone for putting up with me for the year again, helping me out, and by doing that, made my job easy. So you champions, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bannon. Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Stages 1 and 2 of the Alexander Clark Park upgrade was completed just in time for our community event on Saturday. I'd like to say a big thank you to the Parks team, in particular Ashley, Candy, Caroline and Anita, for your amazing work. in creating a fun, inclusive and accessible park upgrade with so much attention to detail. The community love it, and I know it'll be used widely by the community onto the future as we go into the next future upgrades. I'd also like to thank the contractors for their hard work ensuring that the park was open despite the rain. I know they worked really hard last week, and there was so many on site, and it was just amazing to have it open for the community on Saturday. Again, I'd also like to thank our CEO, our directors, managers, program leaders, coordinators and all their support staff for everything you've done for my community this year. And also for right throughout the City of Logan. And I'd also like to thank my fellow councillors. I think we've accomplished a lot this year, and I think we're a great team. And I'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Stem.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, I would also like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to the whole City of Logan, but especially to Division 11 residents. As I've said before, I've attended quite a few events, have quite a few to go, but I love the holiday spirit. I love the holiday time. I wear lots of Grinch stuff, but I'm the complete and utter opposite of a Grinch at Christmas time. So Merry Christmas as well to all the council staff, to the councillors. Thank you to everyone in the community who also has to work over the Christmas break. I know there's quite a few people that do, so wishing them a Merry Christmas as well. But I also have one more big Merry Christmas, because I think this government department's getting very busy at this time of year. I want to wish the staff at the OIA a very Merry Christmas. They have a very difficult job of sifting through complaints, which can be frivolous, vexatious, lacking in substance and or credible. So Merry Christmas to the OIA staff, and I really hope they actually do get to enjoy a holiday this season.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got some serious council business and I hope you don't mind my indulgence here. The late report that we've just passed was about the Riverine Discovery Centre, and I just want to speak to that. So today in council we've made the difficult decision to place the Riverine Discovery Centre project on hold. While I'm disappointed that we have had to make this tough decision, as the governance chair, I believe that this is a financially responsible decision which will allow us to deliver a better Riverine Discovery precinct in the future. The reason for this tough decision reflects some of the challenges many of our community are facing today. Right now, we simply can't afford to build it, and we wouldn't get the plan that we started without compromising the benefits to the community. The skyrocketing cost of construction over the last 12 months would mean proceeding would not give us value for money for the ratepayers. While the Riverine Discovery project may be on hold, it is reassuring to know that Council has completed all the planning and the design works needed for the future. Council will look at the project at the right time in the future. Mr Mayor, like my fellow councillors, I'd like to say a Merry Christmas to everybody as well. Please be safe on the road and look after yourselves. But in other exciting news, the Eagleby pool is open. Yay. Thank you to all the council officers that have helped me with regards to that process. It has been a long, drawn-out one. Over the previous weekend, we opened up for normal hours, extended, and the Belgravia team have done an amazing job. And last weekend, we had more attendance come through the gates on the 2 days, yes, it was very hot, than we would normally have had in a whole month prior to the close of the pool. So congratulations to the Eagle community for supporting that. This coming Saturday, Belgravia are hosting a free event for us to have there from 10 till 4. So community members can come, have a great time, splash around the pool, get a free sausage sizzle from Nightlight, Jumping Castle, and I hope to see you all there. It's been a great outcome for our community. We fought really hard, and I'd like to thank those people that helped along the way, including those community people that wrote in, emailed, petitioned, etc. Your work was part of the whole process. So thank you very much. Merry Christmas to everybody. Be safe on the roads, okay?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It is a bit of a bittersweet time because this is your last council meeting before Christmas as the Mayor. So it's a bit bittersweet. It's the last time that you will be addressing the council before Christmas. And you have a few more next year, but obviously we're going to be a bit busy around election time. I want to wish all the councillors a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I hope you get an opportunity to recharge because obviously you're all in election mode. And to the staff, thank you so much for making Division 1 shine, and sincere thanks to those who have contributed to Division 1 this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With your indulgence, I'd like to say thanks to every resident in my division who have participated in community consultations, mobile offices and events this year. Your feedback is always welcome. We can't pick up every idea and run with it because, as you're aware, we have budgets that we have to stick to, and I think most residents are really cool with that, Mr Mayor. They know that not all of their ideas can come to fruition, and they appreciate that we're actually handling their money very, very carefully. To the CEO, thanks for caring about your workforce. Thanks for coming on board, making the changes that you have, and thanks for actually caring about the councillors too. It's not uncommon for you to come up and go, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Not everyone does that for us, and I really want to say thanks for that. That's really appreciated. I've got an amazing group of people that work in our division that I'd like to thank. Emily and Jackie from the Illegal Dumping Task Force team, over $400,000 is spent on cleaning up lazy people's rubbish that they put out on the footpath, and let's call it what it is. If you can afford a new big screen TV, you can afford to get rid of the old one. So that's actually putting a pressure on ratepayers, and they're doing a really great job at trying to find the people and fine them, and I really appreciate their hard work. For the facilities, Jason, Arnold and Kurt, you're all champions, absolute legends. Andy Lee and the footpath team met with me on a regular basis. We've got Tara and Drew from Kingston who are wheelchair bound, and they're actually doing a review of our footpaths, and Andy Lee and his team are actually working through each of the, like we're literally videotaping us going around the community, and they are working hard to actually make those footpaths easier for people in wheelchairs to access our community, so thanks to them. Jose and Carl, their road safety projects on Ashvale Street, Pilby Street, Valorum Drive, Railway Parade, with planning for Jean Street, Albert Street and Burrigan proceeding. These guys actually take my wackadoodle ideas and turn them into a reality, and I really appreciate their hard work. The parks team are amazing. Our play areas have never looked so good. The dog off-leash areas have gotten some agility equipment, and things are just looking great in our local parks. But it's actually come because we've worked hard as a council to work with our state and federal colleagues. We've got Eridani Park upgrade was paid for by state and feds as well as council. Our youth hub's going ahead with money invested by them. We just heard that Beanley Road Underwood is going ahead. The shared pathway at the Logan Gardens. We've had approval for 40k zones on Railway Parade to slow people down in high pedestrian areas, and also on Polaris Avenue. That doesn't happen without state approval, Mr Mayor. If people are doing it tough out in the community, others are doing it tougher than some, and so our community service groups are gearing up for Christmas. ADRA's having its Christmas Day lunch there. Rosie's is just hooking in like there's no tomorrow, and Touch of Hope is always out. This has been the year of doing, Mr Mayor. Council officers in the leasing group have done an amazing job. Our elders, our Logan elders, have got into their first home, and they are doing amazing things from that. And I'm so proud that it's in my division. Women's Power of Inspiration moved into their new digs on the 1st of December, and they're super excited about what they're going to bring to the community. Gunyametta moved into Ryan's Place, delivering skilling programs, delivering community programs, family programs, children programs. The sky's the limit for them. And Nutch's just signed a lease and moving into the library, which is awesome. Our team climate controlled the museum, and the museum is so grateful to every single person in this room for actually allowing that lip to go through. They are so grateful because last year they sweated their guts out inside that building. We had Eridani Park hosted hundreds of people just 2 weekends ago. Councillor Raven and myself were there, and it was absolutely beautiful to see our parks come alive. There were lanterns hanging off everywhere. Kids were having a ball, and it's because of our parks people and our council staff doing the right thing. The toilets were clean before, the roads were clean, everything was beautiful. So to the directors involved in that, thank you so much. You make our community a great place for our residents to live, and they really do appreciate it. The feedback is absolutely awesome. Ninja Warrior courses at Glindeman Park, Bega Park's had upgraded seating, and the community really does feel that they're actually getting things from this council. And your leadership this year has been absolutely magic. We don't agree on everything, Mr Mayor, but we certainly have some fun conversations about where we end up with our decisions. And I want to say thank you for your guidance. It's been really greatly appreciated. So the punters at home, just be good to each other, be kind to each other, look out for each other. If you see someone struggling, offer them a hand. If you see someone sweating their guts out carrying a lot of shopping, offer them a lift. It's not rocket science. We're not in a Criminal Minds episode. Just offer them a lift. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. These really don't turn on straight away, do they?
Oh, they're dodgy.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I really am intimidated by following on from that, Councillor Lane. I'm going to keep mine much shorter. I just wanted to say... is it still on? No. That wasn't even me. Thank you. Oh, it's working at the moment. Thank you. I just wanted to... I've been reflecting at this time of year that we do, and I've been thinking, I can't believe that it's nearly been 4 years that since we all walked into this building, you know, having no idea what we were going to do with these fantastic positions to support our communities. And I think we've learned a lot. I think we've definitely been able to achieve a lot. So the two things that I've been really excited about have been delivered just in the last few weeks. So before I started here, I worked with children and families, and I was really excited to be able to achieve more things for children and families in our city, and particularly in Division 3. Mayoral Park, which is the park, not the school, but across from the school, has been opened now, and the families are absolutely thrilled with what they're able to achieve, what they're able to access by going into the park. And also the splash pad at the school, the splash pad at the pool, that's just opened as well. And so I had absolutely no idea when I first stepped into this building that two such exciting things for families would come out of this term. I just really wanted to thank all of the staff that have been involved in those projects, but also the staff that are involved in absolutely everything that happens in our city. I mean, I think is it 1,800 staff that make this city tick. And I just want to wish them all really wonderful holidays. Hopefully they get lots of time off to recover. And of course, everybody in this room, you're all really wonderful people, and thank you so much. You're great to work with.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillor Kransky.
Kumbaya, Mr Mayor. I'm feeling the love today. Mr Mayor, I'd just like to do a shout out to the Division 4 residents who've entrusted me to lead the division this term and in the last term. I'd like to say a huge thank you to them for all of their great ideas to help make our corner of the world a really great place to live, and I'm very proud and honoured to stand in this forum and represent them every month. I would now like to put on my Deputy Mayor hat for a moment and just say to the wonderful people who choose to live in the city of Logan, thank you. You truly do have a community spirit second to none, and I hope that we will see you all at KBF on Saturday night when, of course, we have the Christmas Carols event, which is our big celebration of you. So I hope you'll come along, bring a picnic and really enjoy that very, very special occasion. And to Darren and to your staff, there are so many anonymous faces in council that I never will get to see, but they do so much to support my community and to lift up the city, and I'm so incredibly grateful from the people who are actually tending to the gardens and the people who are tending to our roads, people who are in our community services team. I don't want to name any particular group because there are so many wonderful groups in the council. I thank you for your leadership and your stewardship. I thank you for what you have done to lift this council. And to all of the directors, I know you've been under quite a bit of pressure this past year in particular, and without fail, you rise to the occasion. We're very privileged here in Logan, and I just thank you. I'd like to wish everyone a happy and safe Christmas and a prosperous year ahead in 2024. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kransky. Now, Councillor Raven, it's your turn. Now, remember, you've already thanked everyone in your previous episodes, so we don't expect you to thank everyone again.
I wasn't going to thank everyone in my portfolio again, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the reminder. I was going to be a little bit cheeky to Councillor Lane and point out that I thank my residents and the hardworking staff every week and every day. No, it's okay. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you, actually, if that's okay, if you'll indulge me in that, for all the hard work that you've done this year. I know that this job is one that you stepped up to because you felt an obligation and responsibility to the community after what happened last term. And I know that I'm grateful, and I'm sure everybody else in this room is too, for how hard you've worked to bring this council together. Like, as others have said, we don't always agree, but that doesn't mean that we don't work well together. And that disagreement is often where the best work is done, and we move on afterwards and push forward in the interest of the city, which is something that you've taught us, so thank you very much for that. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to the CEO and to all of ELT, not just to Dave Hanson, although I did make it sound as though he was all that there was going on in ELT, to the hard work that they do and that they inspire their teams to do. And finally, to the community, especially, actually, I'll do one shout out to some staff, the ones that toot and wave to me when I'm wishing Merry Christmas in the morning. They have a special place in my heart. You know who you are. Thank you very much. To all the members of the community, I just want to say thank you to the care that you show each other. So the generosity of spirit, the volunteering, the love that you express to your neighbours, where you check in on them on hot days, where you make sure that their fur babies are safe, and that you really just make Logan an amazing place to live. Our greatest asset is our people, and I see that every day when I'm moving through community. I know that other councillors do as well, and that's why it's such an honour and a privilege to represent you in this city. To the people of Division 5, thank you very much for the extra toots and waves that I know you give me, because I've been doing Merry Christmas sign waving now for 8 years in your patch. And thank you so much for making sure that I know that when we go out and we speak about this city, on the state stage, on the world stage, and talk about how amazing it is to be in Logan and how much better we are than our neighbouring councils, that the people in our city is what makes that true. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for keeping the spirit alive, and take care of your friends, your family and your strangers that are around you this Christmas. It can be a hard time for some. We've got a lot of homelessness in our parks and other places, and they need a little bit of care and consideration too. So thank you in advance.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. I'll let the CEO.
Mr Mayor, so on behalf of the ELT and indeed all of the staff, just want to wish the councillors and the Mayor and all the families all the very best for the festive season. It's been a fantastic year. We've enjoyed every moment of it, and we look forward to a wonderful 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Just the last few comments. Thank you to my councillors. I think we've done a great job this year, and we've certainly achieved a lot. The budget was a great budget, and I think when you reflect on the things that we've been able to achieve, and on Saturday spending it out at the splash area at the pool and also the new playground, and watching all those kids, we're doing a great job. And changing people's lives, you could see that people's lives were changed on Saturday. You know, they had somewhere to go and they were enjoying it, and that's our job. To the staff, thank you for your commitment and dedication to the job. Again, you've done a great job this year, and look forward to working with you for the next 3 months, or 3.5 months. Mr CEO, you've done a great job. You've stepped up. New to the job. Well, sort of new. You've been here a little while now, but you're doing a great job. And to our community, Logan people I love, as you know, and watching them enjoy what we're doing, particularly with the playground and the pool, it's probably one of my best days, and I think the other councillors agree with me. They actually enjoyed themselves, and I think, you know, sharing that with the residents actually, it says to you that you're in the right job, and you make differences like that. Like, honestly, when I walked away from the pool, that was the last one I did, and saw those kids as I was walking up the stairs, just absolutely enjoying themselves, and I'm thinking, you know, we should have done that years ago, particularly when they took the old pool away behind here for a car park. And interesting enough, I put a photo up on Facebook and I was criticised about the old pool, which I didn't support. But I was also criticised the fact that we don't have the Brisbane special on the pool admittance. But that's a democracy, and you've got to live with the council resolution. So please drive safely, enjoy your Christmas, and we'll see you here next year. And I'll still be here over the Christmas, New Year break in case we have a cyclone. Thank you. Thank you.